Hello everybody and welcome to the video. So as a person who suffers with some pretty severe anxiety, I have to be very careful about my soda consumption, the caffeine intake, the coffees that I choose. And of course, if I cut out sugars and I cut out caffeine, I'm pretty much lethargic all day long because I don't take vitamins because they hurt my stomach. So it pretty much sucks being me. In some way, shape, or form, I have to find a way to put some sort of caffeine and sugar in my system to basically function throughout the day. Now, as we all know, caffeine is a stimulant. Stimulants are not good for people that suffer with anxiety or have panic attacks because one strong cup of coffee could send me into a panic attack within a few hours. So naturally, I've chosen decaf coffee. But there's another step to the process to finding the coffee that's best for me. Obviously, I'm trying to keep my caffeine content as low as possible, but still be able to get the taste and good flavor of coffee. So not only did I switch to decaf, but also there's another element that kind of exists, and it may be a misconception that a lot of people believe. And what we're going to dive into here is what exactly the difference is between light roast coffee and dark roast coffee, and whether or not one of them has less caffeine content than the other. So a lot of people are under the assumption that dark roast coffee has more caffeine. And on the flip side, there are a lot of people under the misconception that light roast coffee has more caffeine. I'm not really sure how everything got flipped around like that so crazy, but some people are just really adamant that light roast has more caffeine, and then the other side, dark roast has more caffeine. So here's basically how it boils down. In many independent studies over the last several years, they have determined that the caffeine content between light roast coffee and dark roast coffee is virtually non-existent. It's very negligible, and in some studies it actually showed to be pretty much exactly the same. There is no difference in the caffeine content between a light roast bean and a dark roast bean. Not enough to make a difference for you or me. So how did this misconception start? It's pretty simple actually. So the way it works is that light roast coffee obviously is not heated up as hot as dark roast coffee when it's prepped or roasted. You see, what happens to dark roast coffee is that as it's roasted at that higher temperature and sometimes for a longer period of time, it dries out more and it swells up more. It kind of becomes fluffy. Light roast does not do that, at least not as bad as dark roast. So basically what happens is if this cup right here is filled and flat leveled with dark roast coffee, and this cup right here is filled and flat leveled with light roast coffee, the light roast coffee is going to weigh just a little bit more than the dark roast. And then of course, the more cups and the bigger the cups, are that are involved in this, the heavier the light roast is going to be over the dark roast. It's because the dark roast is more flaky, more puffy, so it's a lot lighter. And then of course this light roast here, it's heavier and it's denser. So what's going to happen is that even though these right here, let's say this is your serving size, this dark roast coffee, completely level, this light roast coffee, completely level, the same amount that you're putting into your coffee maker, you're putting less dark roast coffee into your coffee maker. Unless you're somebody who likes to put your coffee in there and then pack it down real tight and then put more coffee in there and pack it down more tight. Most people don't do that. You fill this up, you level it off, you fill this up, you level it off, and you dump it in your coffee maker. So when you do that, you've dumped more light roast coffee into your coffee maker, which means that you are consuming more caffeine with this light roast coffee. But again, the difference is so negligible. I mean, it's going to take you a year's worth of coffee drinking probably to where you really look at the numbers and think, hey, it was worth it. And by a year, I'm pretty sure you've passed all the coffee that you've drank during that year up until the day that you go back and measure your statistics. So ultimately, dark roast coffee and light roast coffee, it's just going to come down to preference, which flavor you like best. Me personally, I go with dark roast. I am maybe getting a partial milligram less caffeine with each cup, which hardly makes a difference in anything, but I do like that nice burnt smoky flavor that this one, the light roast, does not provide. So to recap this video, there's basically no difference in the caffeine content between dark roast coffee and light roast coffee. Studies have proven this time and time again. However, you are more likely to consume more of the light roast coffee with each fill, therefore meaning you're going to get a little bit more caffeine in the light roast versus the dark roast. That's it.